Recorded Books and RB Digital present A Secret Sisterhood, the literary friendships of Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte, George Eliot, and Virginia Woolf, by Emily Midorikawa and Emma Claire Sweeney. Narrated by Elizabeth Sastre. Forward. Lasting joys the man attend, who has a faithful female friend, said the Victorian poetaster Cornelius Were. The role of the female friend for a male writer was to soothe, to sympathise, and to admire. If more than a friend, to be beautiful and perhaps to play the muse by inspiring, and to refrain from turning writer herself. Competition from such a direction might be crippling to the male ego, and damaging to the woman herself, since it was a received opinion throughout the past 2 millennia, up to and including much of the 20th century, that women, if they were to write at all, should not attempt anything heavier than an etiquette guide. They were naturally without talent, since all their energy was channeled into their reproductive organs, not their tiny brains, and they lacked the larger experience that men could easily acquire. To write seriously was immodest for a woman, and even if she did manage to squeeze out a literary effusion, it was bound to be stunted and inferior. If against all odds she managed to enter the literary world, she would be deemed abnormal. Female writers were reclusive, tormented, neurotic, even morbid. Best not to try. But many women did try, and many succeeded. In the 18th and 19th centuries, they turned out quantities of light verse, patriotic songs, social and Gothic novels, histories and biographies. They could sell their work more easily if they remained anonymous or wrote under a male pseudonym. No publisher need meet them face to face, and the prospect of making some money of their own was a not inconsiderable motive. Unlike other means of earning a livelihood, writing was something they could do at home. Some of these female writers became very popular. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote resentfully about that damned mob of scribbling women who were taking up market space that should rightfully have been his. George Eliot wrote the acidic essay Silly Novels by Lady Novelists, denouncing the frivolity of such novels, of which by 1856 there were many. A woman writer with higher standards would have to write very well indeed to overcome the belief that she couldn't do it, that she shouldn't do it, and even if she did do it, she could not do it well. This book is about 4 women who did overcome: Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte, George Eliot, and Virginia Woolf. Where could a great talent, if female, turn for support? A man might play a sustaining role, George Henry Lewis for George Eliot, Leonard Woolf for Virginia, but for Charlotte Bronte and Jane Austen such a figure was lacking. There might be sympathetic siblings, her sister Cassandra for Jane Austen, Emily and Anne for Charlotte Bronte, but there might not. In accounts of the lives of male writers, peer-to-peer friendships, not unmixed with rivalry, often loom large. Byron and Shelley, Charles Dickens and Wilkie Collins, Hemingway and Fitzgerald. But female literary friendships have been overlooked, partly because they were actively suppressed by surviving relatives, as with Jane Austen, or overshadowed by better-known family bonds, as with Charlotte Bronte, or passed over by biographers, as with George Eliot and Harriet Beecher Stowe, or interpreted as merely spiteful hissy fights by commentators, as with Woolf and Mansfield. In digging up the forgotten friendships chronicled in A Secret Sisterhood, Emily Midorikawa and Emma Claire Sweeney have done much service to literary history. We're reminded how hard it was for 2 of these writers to make their way when they were young and as yet unpublished. The physical privation, lack of status, and financial desperation endured by Charlotte Bronte, and the shrunken circumstances in which Jane Austen found herself after the death of her father, are recounted here in painful detail. But for each of the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?